marketing great value wines very successfully globally. Now we're in the area where we've really got to market ourselves as the best wines for what they are around the world and take on, you know, the best from Burgundy and Bordeaux.
Very good. I was going to ask you a question about the first family of wines. It seems to me that organisations or initiatives like the first family of wines are all helping to give a more human face to Australian wine, which is certainly something we need. There's been criticism also of the idea of the promotion of Brand Australia, which was a catch cry for a number of years, and people are starting to say, well, brands are boring everybody stupid, and brands are, you know, these great big monolithic impersonal things that really don't reflect the kind of warmth and fuzziness of the wine industry we should be communicating. Can you just quickly outline what the first families of wine is, Bruce?
Well, First Families came together. I think we had our first meeting in October 2006, and it really grew out of a concern of a number of us in the family companies that Australia was losing its edge, that we were starting to be seen as a corporate industry run by people in suits with university degrees, laptops, a propeller on the top of the head, and the personality of a wet fish, but very good at numbers. And that we lost those person-to-person relationships that had given us the edge around the world. And also that we needed to take the perception of Australia up a couple of notches. And I use the analogy in the UK. We used to earn 4 to 6 quid because there wasn't anything else you could drink in that price range, unless you were into self-depredation. But what we need to do now is earn 8 to 15 quid, and that's where the exciting work in Australia is being done. That's where we're making great wine, and that's where a lot of the vineyard, particularly red, planted after the tax debacle of 94-95, is now giving us some aged red of really interesting wines that we can take that part of the world on. That's the public front, really, is to give Australia back a face and a personality. Secondly, if we do nothing else but to introduce the next generation of our families to each other. Catherine Brown is at our place today. She was in Sydney's Ross Brown's daughter, Brown Brothers of Millawa, come up to have a look to see what another part of the First Families wineries are like, what the people like. So if we can get the next generation to be as good a mates as we are, our industry, I think, can only benefit from it.
Partly because we've been so successful with our export drive in the last 10 years, Australia has probably become unfairly known as a producer of cheap wine and discount wine and supermarket wine. And now that we've got the overproduction, of course, it's not just Australia, it's kind of widespread, but as soon as there's a psychological factor, as soon as people sniff that there's a lot of something or too much of something, they want it less. It's a peculiar psychological thing. So there is that factor. But should we perhaps be making more of an effort to put our top wines in the UK market, in various overseas markets? Could that in fact be one of the reasons why there is this unbalanced perception that there is not enough of these flagship wines, icon wines in the marketplace? Is it your turn?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And our industry has seen this, and we have developed Future Directions 2025, and that really is about getting these iconic flagship wines at the very top, getting them into the markets, having tutorial educational tasting events on them, and also really exploring the regionality. See, the regionality out of Australia is well renowned within Australia, but when you go out overseas, there's a lot of confusion, and there are a lot of labels that have Southern Eastern Australia on them, which is fine for those entry-level wines, but it really is with Future Directions where we've really got to get in and explore the regionality and some of the gems that are out there, like, you know, the Hunter Semillons, the Clare Rieslings, the Coonawarra Cabernets, but everyone understands that within the country, well, wine lovers do, but when you get overseas, there's still this confusion. They know a couple of the regions, but the education is fairly basic. So that's really the role that our community, not industry, must do as we go forward and take the good words. And that's really what we're trying to do with Australia's First Family of Wines, is we've selected a group of 12 passionate family winemakers that represent all the iconic regions within Australia, so we can display that message as we go forward.
Very good. It does seem to me that regionality, individual vineyard wines, terroir, giving wines a sense of place, a sense of human involvement, handmade, if you can go that far, is going to be more and more important. Now, Bruce, your family company not long ago sold off. It's, if you wanted to say that Tyrrell's ever had an industrial side, it sold off the Long Flat brand and focused on the top end of the market, Hunter Valley wines, premium wines. So you saw this coming some time ago, I'd imagine. What else can we do to improve the image of Australian wine?
I think it's going to be back to some of the work we did 20 odd years ago. Ewan, that a number of us are going to, we need, well, us a bit, but it's the next generation that the world wants to see. Jancis Robinson wrote last year that Australia was looking decidedly middle-aged. And I know her well enough, and I was tempted to send an email back saying, "Sweetheart, we're the same age." You've aged better than I have, however. It is the next generation now that have, you know, we were the ones in the riding boots and the double pocket shirts and that took the box of samples to England and got everyone on the drink till 4 o'clock in the morning and gave them a good time out of it and got people to actually enjoy wine again as something to just drink and enjoy. That we have to do more and more of. And we've got to work to get the regional message across that Australia, it's very hard, particularly with Europeans, to get them to understand that Australia is bigger than Europe. You start to talk that, you can see the eyes glaze over. You go to America and say that Australia is bigger than America. You've lost the crowd. Go on. I don't want to hear that. So we've got to get this regional message. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take a lot of time. It's going to take a lot of glasses of wine, a lot of late nights and a lot of hangovers to get that message back across. That we are actually a step above where we're seen. The UK, we're lucky. We've got a whole generation of English wine drinkers that grew up drinking Australian wine. They weren't drinking wine at 24 or 5 because the only thing in their price range did come from the south of France, and it was bloody awful. And then things like Jacob's Creek came in and they were really nice to drink. Those people, we can take them, show them the next step. They'll stick to us. We may have to lose another Ashes series, but we've got to do that to get the wine industry going. It may be worth it.
Yes, you mentioned the south of France, and they've actually improved their wines an awful lot as well, which keeps us on our toes. Perhaps what you've touched on there is we need to put fun back into it. It's become a bit too serious, a bit too much of a business. Back in the early days of the export drive, it was fun, and Australia was synonymous with fun, I think, back then. So we need to put that back into it.